Hello, Ava. Come to the Hareen restaurant in front of the station immediately. All the relatives are waiting.
Wait, that restaurant is a high-end French place, right? What do you mean by all the relatives?
I made a reservation. I even invited those who usually can't come to family gatherings. Well, it costs about $10,000, but don't worry. I'll pay for everything with your credit card. Now hurry up and get here.
He abruptly hung up the phone. Pay $10,000 with my credit card? What nonsense. I stood there, stunned. But it wasn't a surprise or shock. It was sheer exasperation at how ridiculously foolish he was. He really has no idea. I know everything. He's just put one foot into hell himself. Should I just go ahead and push him all the way down? With a deep sigh, I left the house. 30 minutes later. When I arrived at Hareen, he was waiting for me alone. With a creepy smile that didn't match the luxurious decor. The relatives seemed to be waiting in another room, which gave him the chance to start talking proudly.
Ava, good job getting here. As I said before, I'll use your credit card without hesitation. A wife's money is her husband's money. A wife serving her husband is common sense, so don't complain.
I was speechless. He is truly an idiot. According to him, 20 relatives were gathered, and he had reserved a $500 per person course meal. Hareen is a high-end French restaurant, but they offer various course meals that can be enjoyed more affordably. So, it could have been cheaper, but he purposely chose the $500 course. Probably just to trouble me. He finds joy in tormenting me, without realizing it's tightening his own noose, wearing a satisfied expression. In this laughable situation, I told him the truth. A wife's money is her husband's money? A wife serving her husband is common sense? I quit being your wife a month ago, though.
Ha! Quit being my wife. You can't just quit like that. Divorce requires formal procedures. Don't you know that?
You really don't know anything, do you, Dawson? If you did, you wouldn't have reserved a high-end French restaurant. What are you going to do with no money? Planning to dine and dash with everyone?
Of course not, idiot. I'll say it again, I'll pay for everything with your credit card. If you refuse, I'll really make you quit being my wife.
Immediately, I took out a document and thrust it in his face. And I proved how stupid he was. I canceled the credit card a month ago. This document is proof of card cancellation. I brought it because I knew you wouldn't believe me. So, you can't use the credit card. I'll ask again, what are you going to do with no money? Planning to dine and dash with everyone?
Ha! Can't use the credit card? No way. This cancellation proof is fake. I took the card from your wallet, so if it was really cancelled, why keep it in your wallet?
Oh, so you're admitting you took it from my wallet? I anticipated you'd steal it. That's why I left the cancelled card in my wallet. You've been completely fooled. Poor thing, haha.
Ava! What's with that attitude? Don't talk back to your husband, you insolent wife.
In his mind, a wife is beneath him. Being outmaneuvered by his wife is unbearable. His frustration peaked, and he shouted without regard for onlookers. Though we were talking in a corner, his loud voice reached the staff, causing a stir. Realizing this, he glanced around, trying to save face with a forced smile. Though he gestured to indicate everything was fine, the whispers didn't stop. His face flushed with embarrassment, but this was nothing compared to the hell he'd soon face. A few seconds later, his parents approached me. They had heard his loud voice.
Dawson, what are you doing? Everyone is shocked.
You're disturbing other customers. Look, everyone is staring.
Sorry, I got a bit excited. It's nothing, don't worry.
They hadn't heard the content of the conversation and, though exasperated, said no more. He smiled, trying to cover up, but was probably relieved inside. He only shows his true self to me. Especially since he works at his father's company. He pretends to be a good husband in front of his father. Like his parents, I looked at him with disdain as he sent a silent, threatening glare my way. Don't say anything unnecessary. You'll regret it if you do. He always threatened and overpowered me. I complied out of fear, but I had reached my limit. Him gathering the relatives worked in my favor. I would expose his true nature in front of everyone. I started by informing his parents. About today's payment, Dawson plans to use my credit card. He took it from my wallet and made the reservation without my permission. A simultaneous what came from his parents. I canceled the credit card a month ago, but Dawson didn't know and planned to use it. We were discussing what to do with no money.
Wait, Ava. I can't keep up. Dawson stole your credit card and tried to pay with it.
Dawson told us, I'll pay today. He also said, it'll cost about $10,000, but leave it to me. If Ava's telling the truth, he tried to make her pay $10,000? I can't believe this. Isn't Ava mistaken? His parents were visibly confused. This is a normal reaction. Even hearing it again, it's unbelievable, but it's the undeniable truth. Afraid his parents would find out, he forced a smile and spoke.
It's definitely a misunderstanding. I plan to treat everyone with my own money. I'll go settle the bill, so don't worry.
With that, he headed to the cashier, glancing back at me with a wicked smile. Clearly, he didn't believe I had canceled the card. A few minutes later, he returned smiling. His parents seemed relieved, thinking he had paid. But I could tell he was panicking. I can't believe. The card really didn't work, his mind screamed. Of course, I had indeed canceled it. There was only one thing he could do. Pay $10,000 out of pocket. But unfortunately, he couldn't do that. I also knew a major fact he was hiding. I sent him a cold stare. Tell the truth. Or face the consequences. This time, I pressured him silently. Sensing something, his smile faded. After a moment's thought, he finally confessed.
Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I couldn't pay. Ava's credit card really was canceled.
So it's true. You tried to use Ava's card.
Is this a joke? Dawson, what were you thinking?
No, it's not like that. I planned to use Ava's card, but I told her beforehand. I was shocked it was canceled. I'm really sorry, but can everyone pay for themselves today? I'll definitely repay you later.
Mixing lies with truth to cover up was his desperate ploy. Astonished, I replied loudly on purpose.
Hey! Why did you cancel the card? Trying to embarrass me?
Why? Because you'd misuse it. It's absurd to use someone else's card without permission. Even though he spoke softly, I responded at a normal volume. He covered my mouth, shocked.
Sure. Not here. Keeping a cancelled card in your wallet is misleading.
But our conversation was overheard by his parents, their sharp gazes piercing him.
Dawson, explain. Why use Ava's card? Stealing it is a crime.
Well. It's complicated.
Cornered by his father's questioning, he stammered. I decided to explain everything. To reveal his true self to his parents. Dawson started coming home less and less about a year ago. I knew he was busy since your company is a major corporation. But Dawson would go out even on his days off, and he would cancel on my birthday and our wedding anniversary at the last minute. On top of that, he started paying more attention to his appearance and began using my credit card without permission. Hearing my words, my in-laws exchanged glances. They both undoubtedly felt a bad premonition. I told Dawson that I wanted more time together as a couple, and that I didn't want him to use my credit card without permission. But he insisted that it was common sense for a wife to serve her husband and refused to listen. He even threatened divorce, flashing a completed divorce notice at me. Divorce?
Dawson, have you really been treating Ava this way?
My mother-in-law raised her voice, and my father-in-law glared sharply at my husband. My in-laws had learned the truth that their son had been pretending to be a good husband. Surely now, my husband would admit to his wrongdoings. Or so I thought.
No. What Ava is saying is nonsense. I'm going to inherit Dad's position as president, so of course I need to take care of my appearance. Even when I go out on holidays, it's for inter-industry networking events and seminars to expand my connections. What's wrong with using our shared money for work purposes? If I can't earn, even Ava would end up on the streets.
My husband desperately tried to justify himself. He seemed determined to insist that he was not at fault. My in-laws fell silent. Since my husband's excuses made some sense, they couldn't bring themselves to blame him. But I knew all the things my husband was hiding. No matter how much he tried to wriggle out of it, it was useless. I see. So can you still say it's for work after seeing this? With that, I decided to reveal more facts to my in-laws. What I pulled out of my bag was a piece of paper. The paper listed the dates of use, store names, and amounts in a long column.
This is a statement.
Yes, it lists the purchase history of the credit card. As you can see, all of them are high-end stores for women's items.
Hey! Why do you have that?
As I spread out the statement, my husband tried to snatch it away in a panic. But I quickly swatted his hand away and confronted him directly. Why were you buying high-end women's brand items with my card? Makeup and jewelry aren't necessary for your job, are they? Could you explain this properly?
That was gifts for female employees in the company. I gave presents to all the female employees on their birthdays. It's important to be liked by women to smoothly conduct business. It's an expense for work, so there's nothing wrong with it, right?
I was exasperated by my husband's flimsy excuse, but given his popularity at the company, it didn't seem entirely implausible. If he claimed it was birthday gifts for employees, it might even be believable. But this time, my husband couldn't deceive my in-laws.
Regardless of the purpose, the fact that you used Ava's credit card without permission is undeniable.
If it was really necessary, you would have consulted Ava, right? High-end brand items to appease female employees? That can't be a valid reason.
I'm sorry. I apologize for using my wife's credit card. I won't do it again, so please forgive me.
My husband apologized to both me and my in-laws, putting his hands together in a pleading gesture. But my father-in-law's anger did not subside. Father-in-law spoke to my husband in a reprimanding tone.
Being married doesn't give you the right to use her credit card without permission. Especially for such large amounts. You need to pay back every cent you used. Understood?
Okay. I'll pay it back.
My husband, looking crestfallen, hung his head and appeared thoroughly remorseful. But I wouldn't let it end there. I knew my husband was still lying. The real confrontation was about to begin. My husband, in-laws, and I headed to the room where the rest of the family was waiting. There, I took out my smartphone from my bag and pressed the play button. My husband looked at me in bewilderment, but his face soon turned pale. From the smartphone, the voices of a man and woman in conversation began to play. My husband was belittling me, his wife, while the woman was saying, "Hurry up and divorce your wife." Everyone present froze. "Hey Dawson, who is this woman?"
This is.
My husband darted his eyes around, searching for an excuse. Meanwhile, my in-laws wore expressions of fury. The family members were appalled. For my husband, who thought the credit card issue was resolved, this was the worst possible turn of events. It's no use trying to deceive us anymore. You've been having an affair with this woman, haven't you? I said it clearly to my husband. He shouted, sweating from his forehead.
No. No. It's not an affair. I admit I spoke ill of you. But the woman is just a friend. We were just joking around. By the way, when did you even get this? Wiretapping is a crime.
He acknowledged insulting me, but still refused to admit to the affair. Instead, he shifted the blame to me for recording it. But I wasn't going to back down. With determination to uncover the truth, I explained the situation. "Dawson, I've been watching you. The purchase history on the credit card made it clear you were having an affair. So, I decided to bug your car. I knew you were pretending to go to work while meeting with someone else."
Bugged my car? You've got to be kidding. Like I said, wiretapping is a crime. Don't you understand that?
It's not a crime if it's to gather evidence of an affair. Stalking would be different, but this is justified. My husband fell silent, realizing he had no valid counterargument. Still, it seemed he couldn't afford to admit defeat and looked around desperately at my in-laws and the family members, pleading.
Everyone, please don't believe what she's saying. This woman is trying to frame me. I haven't been unfaithful.
Goodness. You're so unrepentant. I sighed and slammed a document down in front of my husband.
What's this?
A demand for compensation. As I said that, my husband's face turned even paler. It was a demand for compensation I had sent to his mistress. After my investigation, I found out you were cheating with a woman named Maddie. So I went to see her and demanded compensation before you could.
You went to see Maddie and demanded compensation? You've gone too far. What are you thinking?
My husband was speechless, shocked that I had confronted his mistress. But he had gone too far as well. Blaming others while ignoring his own actions wouldn't work. Oh. Surprised? But she was very cooperative. She told me all about your misconduct. The high-end brand items you bought with my credit card were for her, right? What presents for female employees? Don't make me laugh. They were all gifts for her, who works at a nightclub.
Damn it. Maddie. She confessed everything to you.
Of course she did. When confronted with the evidence gathered by professionals, she had no choice but to admit it. Maddie acknowledged the affair and paid the compensation. That's why I brought the demand letter with me. My husband looked up at the ceiling in despair. I waved the demand letter in front of him with a smile. He cried out in frustration.
Damn it. You prepared all this without me knowing. What a cunning wife you are.
Huh? Wife. I'm not your wife anymore. I told you I quit being your wife a month ago. It seems you didn't believe me. Actually, I've already submitted the divorce papers. I'm not your wife or anything, just a stranger.
You submitted the divorce papers without telling me?
Why are you so surprised? You used to threaten me with those signed divorce papers, remember? I simply filed them. I followed proper procedures. Do you have a problem with that?
But submitting them without discussing it with me is unreasonable.
It might be unreasonable. But you used my credit card without permission. So I submitted the divorce papers without permission. Now we're even. My husband was at a loss for words. He hadn't anticipated I'd come this far. And from our exchange, my in-laws and family realized that I was telling the truth.
This foolish son of mine. Using Ava's credit card without permission and having an affair.
We believed you two were getting along well. But you were betraying Ava all this time. Everyone glared at my husband with expressions of anger. In a panic, my father-in-law sternly declared to my husband,
I disown you. You're also fired from the company.
Fired? Just for an affair? This is ridiculous. Please, Dad, be reasonable.
A sharp slap echoed through the room. The sound came from my mother-in-law. She had slapped my husband hard across the cheek. Her eyes were filled with a mixture of sadness, pity, and disappointment. You think it's just an affair? Clearly, Dawson is in the wrong. Not only did he hurt Ava, but he also tried to evade responsibility. No one here will accept Dawson. My husband fell silent at my mother-in-law's angry outburst. At the same time, everyone's cold stares fixed on him. Hearing the words just an affair, it was clear just how reckless and shallow my husband was. Saying things like my wife's money is my money and it's common for a wife to serve her husband without hesitation. He only cared about himself. After a while, my husband hung his head in silence. It seemed he had given up, but he was stubborn. Slowly raising his face, he declared,
Fine, Do as you like. Divorce or getting fired, do whatever. I'll marry Maddie.
What did you say?
Unbelievably, my husband had the audacity to say that. He declared his intention to marry his affair partner right after I filed for divorce. Then, with a confident face, he continued.
I'm talented enough to succeed at any company. I could leave Dad's pathetic company anytime. As long as I have Maddie, I don't need anything else. I truly love her. If I can marry Maddie, I don't need anything else.
My in-laws looked utterly stunned. Despite being served with divorce papers, disowned by his parents, and fired from the company, my husband still maintained a defiant attitude. But his arrogance would end here. You may not know this, but Maddie has been seeing multiple men besides you.
What? Don't lie. Maddie only loves me. I won't tolerate you insulting her just because you're upset about the affair.
Sorry, but it's true. She was having affairs with many men, and you were at the bottom of the list.
Bottom of the list?
Yes, to put it bluntly, you were expendable. She paid the compensation to avoid trouble. You were just convenient for her.
No way. Maddie wouldn't do that.
The idea that Maddie loves you is a fantasy. She used you. By the way, she had another man pay the compensation.
That's a lie. Maddie would never betray me. I'm going to marry her. Your interference is pointless.
It seemed my husband still couldn't accept reality. I spoke in a cold tone to make him face the truth. Wake up and realize you've been dumped. You haven't been able to contact Maddie recently, have you? No calls, no messages.
Now that you mention it.
He trailed off, clearly recognizing the truth. That means you're no longer needed. She's blocked you.
I'm no longer needed.
That's right. Do you understand now? You have nothing left. This is the consequence of your deceit. I told my husband firmly. He collapsed to the floor, kneeling and begging.
Please, Ava. I'm begging you, forgive me.
He finally realized his position. He repeatedly bowed to me and my in-laws, asking us to reconsider the divorce and his dismissal from the company. But no one was on his side anymore. It's too late for apologies. I'll be demanding alimony and the money you spent on my credit card.
A man like you is a liability to the company. If you think you can succeed elsewhere, go ahead and try. You'll be of no use.
Please, don't abandon me. I'm truly remorseful. Give me another chance.
He pleaded, head still bowed, his voice almost in tears. But my father-in-law, having completely lost faith in him, ignored him and left the restaurant. My mother-in-law followed, and the other relatives also started preparing to leave without a glance at my husband. I'll go handle the bill.
What? You'll pay the $10,000?
Of course, but I'll be billing you later. I smiled sweetly. My husband muttered, "No way," as he collapsed to his knees. Today was likely the worst day of his life, thanks to my retaliation. But the story doesn't end here. The real hell for him was just beginning. I moved out of the apartment I shared with my husband and returned to my parents' home. For the past few days, I'd been receiving numerous missed calls, all from my ex-husband, Dawson. The phone kept ringing incessantly, and I knew why. I took a deep breath and answered to deliver the final blow.
Ava. You finally answered. Please. I need your help. I'm in serious trouble.
Oh dear, sounds tough. Are you being chased by debt collectors?
How do you know? Did someone tell you?
No. I investigated myself. Dawson, you're heavily in debt, aren't you? Not only did you lavish gifts on your affair partner, but you also bribed colleagues to take on your work. You forced them to comply by leveraging your president's son status, raising his company standing by underhanded means and using the free time for affairs, going into debt for his whims. What a fool he was. On the day we gathered at the upscale restaurant, Dawson learned that I had canceled my credit card. His only option then was to pay the $10,000 bill himself. But I knew he couldn't do it because I had already discovered his significant debts. Dawson, this is entirely your own doing. But surely, someone as talented as you can succeed at another company, right? Leaving your dad's pathetic company shouldn't be a problem for you, right?
No. Actually, I haven't secured another job. I've been rejected everywhere. And now, with debt collectors chasing me, I'm mentally exhausted.
Of course, that's obvious. I asked knowing the answer. What can Dawson, who offloaded his work on colleagues to raise his evaluation, actually do? Even if you get another job, you'll quit soon. You know that, don't you? Dawson remained silent. My words had hit the mark. Unless he faced himself and changed his ways, he would keep repeating the same mistakes. If he continued on this path, a living hell awaited him without any intervention from me.
Ava. I truly regret it. I should have treated you better. I should have worked earnestly at Dad's company. I promise I'll change. Please, give me another chance.
There's no way we can start over. I believe people can change, but some things can't be undone. You betrayed not just me, but also the people who trusted you. You will face the consequences. I'll demand alimony and repayment of the money you spent. Don't think you can escape. Confirming my husband had fallen silent again, I quietly hung up. Later, I heard from my in-laws about Dawson. Unable to find a new job, he eventually begged for their help. Family should help family, he pleaded. Don't you care what happens to your son? Despite neglecting and deceiving his family, he expected their support when in trouble. Did he really think such selfish logic would work? Dawson only ever thought about himself. He never realized that the life of comfort he enjoyed was thanks to the support of those around him. He never felt gratitude. If I had seen his true nature before marriage, I would never have married him. I deeply regret my own foolishness. But more than anything, I regret not consulting anyone about it. Even though Dawson threatened me, if I had sought help from my in-laws or relatives earlier, things might have turned out differently. I will face myself and grow stronger. With determination, I took a big step forward, leaving behind my weaker self. How did you like today's story? Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.